Hello, welcome again to Expounding the Bible. I'm your host, Nathanael Morel, and today we are going to discuss. We're going to keep on going on the Daniel diet. And if you look at the previous video, the video before the previous video I did Daniel diet. Was Daniel a vegan? And in that video, we discuss why Daniel chose not to eat the king's meat, and it was because the king's meat was unclean and it was not prepared how the Bible says we should prepare the meat. And we also found out that Daniel was not a vegan, as we see in Daniel chapter 10. Daniel ate meat. He ate flesh foods, but he ate it how the Bible says how to eat it, and he ate the right type of meat, not the unclean meat. So this is just basically a follow-up of it, and this is the Daniel diet: meat versus vegetarian versus fruits, vegetables, grains, a plant-based diet. We want to discuss what is the difference, because I'm a vegetarian, and people come up to me and say, well, where do you get your protein from? You know, where you get your nutrients from? You know, if you don't eat beef or you don't eat chicken, you know, where do you get, how do you grow, how do you maintain yourself? And I have to tell them, well, there are plenty of resources in the plant-based world that further enhance more better than eating meat does, and we'll show you how. So first we want to open up again with Daniel chapter 1. We want to go to the book of Daniel chapter 1, and we just want to basically go according to the video before the previous one. Just build up again a little foundation on the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 1 and verse 8, it says, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself." So Daniel said, I'm not going to defile myself with the king's food. Defile means to become unclean. Why? Because the food is unclean. The food that the king was serving was unclean food. Was pork, ducks, whatever it was. And even if they did serve clean food, beef, chicken, turkey, the Babylonians served it in a way that God told the children of Israel in the law of Moses not to eat it. So with the blood and the fat and etc. So now we want to look at, let's go to the book of Exodus. Let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 15. And God here is telling the children of Israel something. Exodus chapter 15 and verse 26. Exodus chapter 15 and verse 26. God is telling the children of Israel. God says, "And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all of his statutes, I will not put none of these diseases upon thee which I brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee." So God is our healer. God, through the remedies, heals us. And God says, if you hearken to whatever I tell you to, I'm not going to put none of these diseases upon that Egypt had upon you. And we see that the children of Israel over time did not hearken to God, and therefore they were plagued with disease. Now what was the disease that used to fill Egypt? Egypt was a very beautiful place. It was a very nice place, a very rich place, but Egypt was filled with disease. Just like America is a beautiful place, is a nice place, but America is full of disease. Cancer, number one, breast cancer, colon cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and all these things. The same thing with Egypt. And actually, if you examine, there's been scientists who examine mummies from ancient Egypt, and they have found diseases thriving in these mummies, one of which tumors, heart disease, cancers, diabetes, polio, tuberculosis, and leprosy. And when you look at these diseases thrived in Egypt, and God is telling his people, if you do what I say, none of these diseases is going to come on you. Now, what was the things God told us to do? Is to eat right, to eat healthy. Now, what was one of the things that Egypt used to do that was not according to God's law? They used to eat unhealthy. They analyzed the mummies and tombs of these ancient Egyptians, and they found that they used to eat a lot of beef, poultry, and fried foods, and the most common food was pork. They used to also eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, leeks, garlic, onions, and fruits and things like that. But they used to also be big on meat eating, especially pork was the most common. Now, pork is very interesting. Pork is very interesting because watch this. Let's go to, I'm going to go here to a website, and I believe this is cancer.org, and it says World Health Organization says processed meats cause cancer. Now watch this. It says the International Agency for Research of Cancer has classified processed meats as something that causes cancer. It has something that probably causes cancer, and let's go down. Processed meats include hot dogs, ham, bacon, sausage, some deli meats. It refers to meat that has been treated in some way to preserve flavor. Processes include salting, curing, fermenting, smoking. Red meat includes beef, pork, lamb, and goat. It says 22 experts from 10 countries reviewed more than 800 studies to reach their conclusions and found that eating 50 grams of processed meat every day increased the risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. That's equivalent to about 4 strips of bacon or 1 hot dog. For red meat, there was evidence of increased risk of colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, and prostate cancer. Again, cancer. Cancer is a prominent disease here in America. Why? Because America is a heavy meat-eating country. And guess what? Cancer was a prominent disease in Egypt. Why? Because Egypt was a very meat-eating nation. And God says, if you change your ways, change your diet, none of these diseases will come on you. Now, going further, it says overall, the lifetime risk of someone developing colon cancer is 5%. So they say, to put the numbers into perspective, the increased risk of eating the amount of meat in the study would raise average lifetime risk to almost 6%. So here we see that eating meats, especially processed meats, increases your chance of cancer. And this is the Cancer Society, what's it called? The World Health Organization of the International Agency for Research on Cancer. And they published this, that meat eating increases your risk of cancer. Now let's go. Now this was made back in, well, here's another study actually. Here's another study. In 2012, the Consumer Reports magazine tested 240 whole ground pork, and it found that 83% tested positive for bacteria that can cause abdominal pain, joint pain, muscle pain, headaches, and you get sick. It can lead you to sickness. 83% of the pork tested positive for this type of dangerous bacteria. And when you look at meat, when you look at pork, there's a reason why the eating of swine's flesh or pig or pork, whatever you want to call it, is forbidden in the Bible. Both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. It's forbidden in the Bible. They calls it unclean food. Why? There's a reason why it's unclean. One, because all that pigs eat is garbage. That's a well-known fact. So if the pig eats garbage, then guess what? Its meat is garbage. You eat the pig eats garbage, so guess what's going to happen overall in the food chain? You're eating garbage. Another thing is that pigs are one of the animals, or one of the rare animals that don't sweat. So when you don't sweat, you do not take out that toxic waste out of your body. You do not filter those things out. You keep those things there, and guess what? Bacteria and parasites thrive in that environment. I have seen videos of people's intestines what happens to people's intestines and stomachs when that are heavy meat eaters, especially pork eaters. And their stomachs, their intestines are full of parasites. I'm talking about little worms just crawling all over. And it looks like if it's a termite colony. And I'm like, what is that? But that's what happens. That's what happens. And then these little parasites eat all the nutrients of your food, so you don't get nutrients. Then you complain, well, why do I get a headache? Why do I feel this? Why am I so diseased? Why am I sick? Well, because look at the diet that you're eating. So again, this is a study back in 2012. Now is it that doctors and scientists are coming up and saying that pork and meat are bad for you. But notice this. The Adventist Church, Seventh-day Adventist, actually live 10 years longer than the average American. The life expectancy in the USA, there are 30 out of 35 countries that participate in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD. Countries that participate in that economic development, 35 countries participate in it. Out of 35 countries, United States ranks number 26, almost last place in life expectancy at 79 years. Who's the country in number one? Japan at 89 years life expectancy. Why? Because Japan has a more healthier diet. They eat more plant-based foods. They eat more naturally than Americans do. Americans are almost in last place. 79-year life expectancy. But guess what? Study was done in the Huffington Post. Seventh-day Adventists live 10 years longer than the life expectancy here in America on average. Putting it from 79 years to 89 years, exactly what Japan is. Japan's number one country. So Seventh-day Adventists on average are basically the number one people at life expectancy, 89 years. Why? Because we follow a health message from the Bible and from Ellen White, who confirms what the Bible says. Now, watch this. That's in the Huffington Post, that study on Seventh-day Adventism. You can find that on Google. Look at what Ellen White says in regard to health. This is why Seventh-day Adventists are living 10 years longer on average than everybody else, because we follow a health message. Look what she says, Counsels for the Church, page 229. This can also be found in the Ministry of Healing, page 313 and 314, all Ellen White's books, and she wrote this back around 1905. And this study that pork was unhealthy came out at around 2012. So we knew this, Adventists knew this stuff 120 plus years ago. Look what she says. She says the tissues of the swine swarm with parasites. Of the swine, God says, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. That's Deuteronomy 14, verse 8. This command was given because swine's flesh is unfit for food. Swine are scavengers, and this is the only use they were intended to serve. Scavengers. You wouldn't eat a vulture. Why? Because a vulture eats garbage, eats dead creatures to filter the earth. Same thing with pigs. Never under any circumstance was their flesh, pork's flesh, permitted to be eaten by humans. It is impossible for the flesh of any living creature to be wholesome when filth is its natural element and when it feeds upon every detestable thing. You give pork anything to eat, they'll eat it. Garbage, rotten food, they'll eat it. How can you eat an animal and that animal has garbage for its food? That's what's supplying its nutrients for the pig, is garbage. Let's go up the same page. She says, flesh was never the best food. It is but its use is now doubtably objectable, since disease in animals is so rapidly increasing. Those who use flesh foods little know what they're eating. Often, if they can see the animals when living and know the quality of meat that they eat, they will turn away from it loathing. People are continually eating flesh that is filled with tuberculosis, cancerous germs. Tuberculosis, cancer, and other fatal diseases are thus communicated. The liability to take disease is increased tenfold by eating meat. So she says people are eating meat that are filled with cancerous germs, tuberculosis, and other fatal diseases. What was it that the website said that we read in cancer.org? It says that meats are increase your chance of cancer. What was the diseases that ancient Egypt had? Tuberculosis, just as Ellen White says here. They had cancer, they had polio, they had heart disease, they had diabetes, they had leprosy, they had numerous diseases. Why? Because their number one thing, apart from fruits and vegetables, which is good, but they used to contaminate that with flesh foods, especially pork. And beef was one of their things that they used to like to eat. And poultry and fried foods, a lot of fried foods, not a little bit, but a lot of it. Pork was the number one thing they used to eat. And what did she say? Pork is unclean because it eats garbage, and that it's filled with parasites, and that it brings with it cancer and tuberculosis. And when you look at ancient Egypt, those were one of the things that they used to have, cancer and tuberculosis. And when you look at America today, cancer, polio, heart disease. Why? Because we are one of the top meat eaters in the world. Our diet is based on meat. It's like McDonald's, all these fast food restaurants. That's all we eat is burgers. Unhealthy foods. No wonder America is almost in last place, 26 out of 35th in life expectancy, because we don't eat healthy. Now let's go a little further. Let's start. Let's start looking at the difference between meat and a plant-based diet. A lot of people say, well, where do you get your protein from? I said, I eat beans. Really? Yeah, where do you get your calcium from? Hey, soy milk has a lot of calcium on there. That's just one option. If you're allergic to soy, there's always something else you can eat. I mean, the vegetarian world is just full of options. Let's look at this. I'm going to present a series of pictures of pictures that are going to show the difference. Let's find it here. Okay, here we have a diagram, a picture of steak versus broccoli. And here we have 100 calories of steak versus 100 calories of broccoli. The difference, look at this. In steak, you got 8 grams of protein. In broccoli, you have 11 grams of protein. In steak, you have 7.4 grams of fat. In broccoli, you have 0.4 grams of fat, plus you got phytochemicals, vitamins, and essential nutrients that prevent disease and promote health. So when you compare beef with broccoli, the broccoli beats beef by a long shot. Same amount, 100 calories of each. Broccoli wins in protein. Broccoli wins in less fat. That's just one option. You love broccoli, stick with it. 10 times better than meat. And broccoli is a known cancer fighter. Beef doesn't fight cancer, it gives you cancer. Broccoli is number one. Broccoli, I forgot they did the study, is many times more powerful than chemotherapy. That's how powerful broccoli is. Now again, you don't like broccoli? Hey, there's many more fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains to choose from that can do the same job. Let's look at more further. Let's go, here's another picture. Steak versus beans. This is I'm just going through the basics. I'm not a nutritionalist. I'm just going by common sense and the surface area of things. Steak versus beans. Look at this. 20 calories from protein in steak. In beans, 25 calories of protein. In steak, you got 80% calories from fat, mostly saturated, which is unhealthy fat. In beans, 5 calories from fat, mostly unsaturated, which is healthy fat. In steak, you got 0% calories from complex carbohydrates, which means it gives you 0% energy. In beans, you got 70% of calories comes from complex carbohydrates, which means it gives you energy to work, to maintain your health, to be vigorous. In steak, it contains excess hormones. Bad for you. In beans, it helps discharge the excess hormones. Steak has no fiber. Beans are high in fiber. Steak contains steroids and antibiotics. Beans, if organic, contain no chemicals. Steak constipates. Beans keep you regular. Steak unsustainably produced. Beans are sustainably produced. Steak depletes the earth. Beans adds needed nitrogen to the soil. So when you compare steaks with beans, who's the winner? Beans, plant-based diet. There we go again. Big time. Steaks have no vitamin A, they have no vitamin C, they have no vitamin E, they don't got those vitamins. Yet you look at peaches, you look at oranges, you look at mangoes, you look at all the fruits in the world. Kiwis, cancer-fighting fruits. Strawberries, cancer-fighting fruits. Peaches, mangoes, all those things. Vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, iron. They all have those nutrients. You ain't gonna find that in meat. Let's go further. Let's look at this other one. Okay, let's compare lentils with a piece of cow. You got 1 bowl of lentils equals to 1 piece of cow, which is 100 grams, 400 grams for lentils. Look at the difference. Look at this. Protein, comparing lentils to the cow. Lentils, 36 grams of protein, the cow 32. Calcium, 74 milligrams, cow 17. Iron, 13 milligrams of iron, cow 2.7. Magnesium in lentils, 71 milligrams, cow 21. Potassium in lentils, 1,460 milligrams of potassium. In a cow, only 254 milligrams. In a bowl of lentils, you got 31 milligrams of vitamin A, 0 of that in a cow. In lentils, you got 6 milligrams of vitamin C. In a cow, you got 0. In lentils, you got 31 grams of fiber. In a cow, you got 0. You got more nutrients in a bowl of lentils than you do in 1 piece of cow. 100 grams of cow. Beef, whatever you want. It's not there. It's not healthy for you. Sure, has some nutrients on it. I'm not going to say it doesn't. It has protein. It has some calcium. It has some iron, but doesn't have as much as a plant-based diet, which reimburses you and makes you healthier. And meanwhile, you see, why you want to get this nutrient second-handedly? A cow eats this, so you expect to have some of this nutrients, but it's of a lesser degree. So why would you want to eat the second lesser degree nutrients? Why don't you go to the first degree nutrients and obtain it firsthand? It's much more healthy for you. It goes to your bloodstream much more faster. As for meat, especially beef or chicken, I believe it takes several hours for you to digest it, which means it's still stuck in your stomach. It constipates you, and you have a hard trouble getting the nutrients out of it. Let's go again. Look at this. 4 ounces of ground beef versus 4 ounces of black beans. Let's see what it amounts to. Both are 4 ounces. Both have 24 grams of protein, but beef contains 320 calories, and black beans only 120 calories. Beef has 200 calories more than beans. So if you are getting yourself into a diet, hey, beans versus beef, they have the same nutrients. Actually, beans has way more nutrients and more than half the calories. So if I were going on a diet, hey, I'm switching to beans. Has the same amount of nutrients, less calories. Isn't that what we want? Same amount of nutrients, but not as much calories. Here we go. It says plus beef is high acidity. Beans, lower acidity. Beef, high in cholesterol. Black beans, no cholesterol. Beef has saturated fat. Black beans, no saturated fat. Beef, no fiber in it. Beans, 9 grams of fiber on it. So when you compare the two, what wins? The plant-based diet, the vegetarian, fruits and vegetables, or the beef? Now, well, I ain't gonna go into that one. So you get the general picture. You get the general picture. We did beans versus beef, lentils versus beef, broccoli versus beef. The plant-based diet wins the game. Meat ain't gonna take you anywhere. Meat is only gonna bring you diseases. It's only going to bring tuberculosis. It's only going to bring diabetes. No wonder a lot of people have diabetes, and I'm like, what's your main diet besides donuts and stuff? Well, I eat a heavy meat diet and stuff. I'm like, that's why you have diabetes. I mean, look at, how do you expect to maintain yourself healthy if you're not having all the nutrients? You have to have fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains. And fruits are just high in vitamins. I mean, like high in vitamins, high in anti-cancer, antioxidants, and all these nutrients that we most desperately need. They ask, how you get your protein from? I said, hey, I eat rice and beans, lettuce and tomato every day. Lettuce, high in vitamin A. Beans, high in protein. Rice, protein. Tomatoes, vitamin C. Combine that together, you got a lot of nutrients there. Let's go to, I want to read this as we bring this to a wind down. I want to read 2 quotes from Ellen White. Again, Ellen White giving the health message. Seventh-day Adventists live 10 years longer than the average. Why? Because we follow a health message given to us from the Bible and from Ellen White 100 plus years ago. Things that Ellen White said back in her day, back in the 1860s, in the 1870s, all the way to her death in 1915. Things on health that she says that back in her day, doctors said the opposite. Back in the day, doctors used to think that smoking used to cure lung cancer. Ellen White, in their day, was one of the first ones saying smoking is bad for your health. Guess what? That was not confirmed. She said that back in the 1860s. That was not confirmed until the 1950s, when now they started coming out saying, yeah, smoking is bad for your health. It causes lung cancer. That shouldn't be no surprise. I mean, Adventists, we knew this 100 years before they came out with it. John Harvey Kellogg was like 5 years ahead of his class when it came to medical school. Why? Well, how was he so wise? Everybody knows Kellogg was a very wise doctor. Very wise when it comes to how the way you take care of your body and give your body its nutrients. Where do you think he learned his information from? He was an Adventist. He used to study under Ellen White. And Ellen White used to get her messages from God on health. So Ellen White passed it over to Kellogg. Kellogg passes it over to many doctors and nutritionalists. And back in Kellogg's day, he was one of the top 5 years ahead of medical school. That has to be very wise. Where did it come from? Originally from God. Through Ellen White. Look what she says. Let's see. This is taken from Healthful Living, page 96. And I encourage you, go to Ellen White, pick up some of her books. Healthful Living is one. Ministry of Healing, Counsels on Diets and Foods is a very great one. She says, meat is not essential for health or strength. Else the Lord made a mistake when he provided food for Adam and Eve before their fall. All the elements of nutrition are contained in fruits, vegetables, and grains. This is Healthful Living, page 96, can also be found in the Review and Herald, May 8th, 1883. She said this statement in 1883, that fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains provide you more power, more better health than meat does. And if meat would, and let's just say meat would have given us more better nutrients than a plant-based diet, then she says God made a mistake when God created Adam and Eve, and you see God telling Adam and Eve that herbs and fruits and vegetables are your food. All these seeds and fruits yielding seeds and herbs are for your food, God says. They are for you to eat. God did not tell Adam and Eve to eat meat. So if meat was healthier, or if meat is healthy, then God would have told Adam and Eve, here, you can take a chicken if you want to. No, God says fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains. And when you analyze fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains, when you eat them the way they should be eaten, they give you a lot of more vitamins. Now, one thing we know, fruits and vegetables shouldn't be mixed. That's why I say you eat them the right way, you'll be good. Carrots have a ton of vitamin A. I believe they also have vitamin C. Just one carrot alone, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it has about 200% of vitamin A just on one carrot. Just on one carrot. So what does that tell you about potatoes? Very high. Plantains, very high. Tomatoes, kiwis, pineapple, very high in vitamin C. Pineapple can be used for cancer fighting, cough fighting. Pineapple is very healthy, and it's sweet. Now, for a person with diabetes, be like, I cannot eat those fruits because those fruits, the sugar is bad for me. Do you know sugar cane, where they make cane sugar from? Sugar cane is known to reduce type 1 and type 2 diabetes. That sugar is healthy sugar from its natural state, and it becomes a diabetes fighter. I looked it up. You can go do the research yourself. Let's go to, I want to read this quote from Child Guidance, page 384. And it says, Ellen White says, it is a mistake to suppose that muscular strength depends on the use of animal food. The needs of the system can be better supplied, and more vigorous health can be enjoyed without its use. Grains with fruits, nuts, and vegetables contain all the nutritive properties necessary to make good blood. These elements are not so well or so fully supplied in a flesh diet. So in a flesh diet, in a meat-eating diet, there's no vitamins in meat. You'll find some nutrients such as calcium, iron, and protein, but it's not as supplied as when you eat fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains. These elements are not well or so fully supplied on meat diets. Had the use of flesh been essential to health and strength, animal food would have been included in the diet appointed to man from the beginning. So if meat was so important for our health, in Genesis, when God created Adam and Eve, God would have gave them permission to eat it. But no, God didn't start it out that way. God's original diet for mankind was fruits and vegetables, nuts and grains. Why? Because they provide the ultimate strength, the ultimate health. Look at all these actors, all these athletes. How do they maintain themselves young? Many of them go vegan. They eat only fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. Some are vegetarian. And you'd be like, whoa, that girl looks so young. Well, how? Because they're eating a plant-based diet. Now, eating a plant-based diet is not just going to help you on weight loss or maintain yourself healthy. You gotta do exercise too. You know, if for a person that's a vegetarian, if they don't do exercise, a person that eats meat and does exercise has more better health than a person that's a vegetarian and no exercise. We have to do exercise. Exercise is very important. So then you can burn the calories. You can, when you exercise, your muscles are working, your blood is working, and it's getting all those vitamins from the food that you eat, and it's circulating it into the body. It's applying it to your body. You're mixing that and carrying the blood, pumping the blood with oxygen, pumping the blood with these vitamins that you're feeding it. When you're doing exercise, that's how the way you get the food that you eat all to mix up with your body, and in turn gives you good health. Drinking water every time instead of certain other drinks is also healthy for you too. Water itself is also a cancer fighter. If you drink it and drink water and eat the right foods that are also cancer fighters, big time. So when it comes to the Daniel diet, Daniel ate meat, yes, but his meat back in his day was not as contaminated with all these chemicals and sickness as it was now. And besides, he ate the meat the right way, which is taking the blood out, taking the fat out, taking all these things out. But the Egyptians, they eat meat how the way we eat meat today. Just kill it, fry it, whatever you want with it. Pork, beef, chicken, poultry, whatever you want. Big time meat eaters the Egyptians were, and in turn got them sick. America, big time meat eaters we are, and in turn America is sick. Diabetes reigns in America. Heart disease reigns in America. Cancer reigns in America. The same diseases ancient Egypt had. What are the similar things that they have? Their diet. Their diet. And America is 26 out of 35 in life expectancy. Why? Because of our diet. Adventists live 10 years more longer. Why? Because we listen to what the Bible says about diet. We listen to what Ellen White says about diet. Ellen White had this information, gave us this information 100+ years ago. And now is it when scientists, most of the time unknowingly, are confirming what she says. But all we say is, nah, Ellen White was crazy. Ellen White didn't know what she was talking about. Well, think again. Think again. All the things that she wrote now, 120 years later, now they're being confirmed. So when it comes to meat versus a plant-based diet wins hands down. So that's the study I wanted to bring out today. And just to go back and just think about the diet that we're eating. Think about your health and the health of others. So thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please press like. Don't forget to subscribe. We're also on Facebook at Expounding the Bible. Until then, this is your host, Nathanael Morel, saying, have a blessed day.